this allowance to be fully human, like just like there can be in spiritual teaching such a, almost like a push toward the transcendent and the absolute and the divine, like that kind of separation. And I know for some people that's part of the journey of going there first, like feeling, like what I am is divine, the human part doesn't really exist. And then they're able to come back to the human. But even even just in that divine so-called realm, and everything is well, all is well, all is taken care of. There's no, it's like nothing there and everything there. But isn't it possible, and this is my practice and my journey, is that here in this human realm, which is loaded with challenge for so many people right now, nonstop, is that possibly if we really let ourselves have it, in the same way we let ourselves have our divine nature, we let ourselves have this full human experience and all of its complications and all of its diversity and all of its, like, crack your heart open challenge, that perhaps in allowing that, we get informed in how to do it. I mean, that's my experience. It's like really going, rolling the sleeves up, getting down there in the trenches, falling down, making the mistakes, getting up again is where the learning happens. And this is a strong part of the feminine. In the pre-call, we were speaking about this, is she really is okay with getting messy. It's like, you get messy. That's the growth, that's the evolution in the learning, is like not holding a standardized way of what it's going to look like. But in the masculine, it does hold a frame of reference of how things are to appear. And it's like, who does the cleanup usually? The woman, right? The feminine. She's always there's like they say, behind every good man leader is a strong woman, is the one who cleans up the mess. But for whatever reason, we're good at that, but it's not really a woman thing. It's a human allowance. It's allowing for this full humanity, and it informs a way. Yeah.
Yes. And allowing space for the other to shine, for the other. There's a standing back that the feminine does to allow your children to shine, to allow yourself to serve. It comes easily to us, to do that. And we've been punished for it. Whereas those qualities, as you say, can be woven in to spirituality as it evolves now. But I think there is a line there, though, between, the psychological human development doesn't always take us into a full embodied awakening.
No.
Sometimes psychology is just psychology.
Yes, say more about that. That's a really good point.
Yeah, spirituality requires psychology sooner or later. Pre, post, ideally all the way through. It doesn't ever end. But the psychology is a sidebar that must be respected and have its place, because our human evolution doesn't end. Otherwise, we become static, and anything that's static gets rotten very quickly. So spirituality, in parallel with psychological growth, is the healthiest model.
Yes.
Psychology doesn't automatically lead to spirituality, but spirituality needs psychology.
Yes.
They're two different things. And then you mentioned transcendence. I think transcendence has to be parked for a while. Transcendence is very deep spiritual work, in my experience. It's very deep. How does that work when we're paying attention to the psychological? It kind of doesn't. And I think it's because we're actually not evolved enough as a race to be able to go to the transcendence of all things and also deal with our psychology at the same time. What has happened is that transcendence has been used as an avoidance. And that's not authentic transcendence.
No.
There's very few who really have seen through the working mechanism of fear, of existence itself, and completely transcended these experiences and yet allowed them to come through. But there's another lens of perception open to seeing them another way. And so this is one explanation of transcendence. It's demystifying even the most deepest, profoundest human experiences. That doesn't mean avoiding them, but it has, for most, traditionally meant avoiding them.
Yes, yes, it's very good that you clarify that. So as the perception is shifting, and the perception is shifting from a transcendent place, it allows whatever maybe was bypassed or avoided prior to be able to come to that from, let's say, a more embodied place.
Yeah.
Which,
and we're not there yet.
yeah.
I think right now we're talking about spirituality in 30 years' time. I think once the feminine shows up with its gifts and is integrated has its place in the expression of contemporary spirituality, I think then we can revisit transcendence and understand it for the first time.
Yeah, I like what you said about psychology and spirituality being like perfect marriage in a way, like side by side, really working well together. But psychology by itself won't necessarily make us grace prone, so to speak.
Right.
And I love hearing that because psychology can sound and behave very brilliantly. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff out there. And for that kind of person in that journey, that is incredibly valuable. You know, there's so many offerings around. I don't need to mention them, but so what needs to happen for a person for them to kind of, in a way, trip over that? It's like to trip over that psychological self into, for lack of a better word, I'll say, the faith in something beyond, or the transcendent. You know, because I do know there are some people who, because I've worked with them myself, they're just there isn't an opening for that.
Yes.
And there's a wanting though, but there will be, it's almost like there is a, maybe, I don't know, I'm just going to say this out loud, I don't know if it's true, a denial of something.
Yes.
They're all like, and what is that? And is that like something that is just going to happen for somebody, or is it going to not? Like this awakening, to really awaken to yourself as a spirit, as essence, as beyond the personality, psychology, identified self.
Yes.
What'd you say for that?
Yeah. There's an apparent lottery, a randomness of grace in all of this that happens in spirituality, you know. We can do our psychological work and be more prepared for it. We have to be brutally self-honest. And I think that's the antidote to the denial that you're speaking of. And as long as we want to hide what we don't like and put forward and publicize our better version of ourselves, as long as that inner judgment is going on inside us, we're fundamentally supporting a belief that we're not safe. And as long as we deeply unconsciously believe we're not safe, then the surrender that is asked of us in order for grace to shine through, it can't happen. It can't happen. We're saying, not yet, it's not safe. I don't trust you.
Safe, yeah, not safe to yes, we can't like really even willfully let go. It's like letting go happens into it.
Yeah.
And there is, and I think also too, with what you're saying, that is part of the feminine field, is that sense of softness and safety. And for so many of people in my own experience, I see that there is a very early attachment wound, the earliest attachment wound and trauma of mother or father, whatever, but I think primarily mother, that's part of it for some people. And and the safety that didn't get to happen. So to be able to have that is the work of that's the journey, that's the practice.
That's the practice. And a lot of us are not even aware of those very early wounds, because all of our lives have been built on that as a foundation, and we recognize ourselves, after that event. If it happens that early, before we have any regular sense of self, then we don't even know it's there.
Yeah, it's very buried, very, very,
very
real,
deep.
like even in the brain, the moving away, the brain is organized around it, not to stay, not able to.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah.
So,
so that's a big topic in itself.
It is. It's a huge other thing, but I do think it's one of those primary causes for the denial, the inability to see the huge wide open space where grace comes in, where surrender happens, where the letting go and the wider picture and bursting through to what spirituality really is.
Yes. Yes.